How's everybody out there in YouTube land today? Hope this finds you well. We're going to be working on a SADUSDO recipe here and make a little project out of it. If you're not familiar with the SADUSDO, you might want to refer over to Know What Mom Knows channel. Shelly Cole is the one that came up with this, and she's offered this recipe for free to anybody that's interested. She got a little contest going here. It ends July the 1st. Wanting people to make things with her SADUSDO recipe. It's sawdust and a homemade glue that she's come up with. She's got two recipes for the homemade glue. One is a stone glue and the other one is called Flexiglue. And I made a bunch of stuff a while back with the stone glue, and I did some videos on it, on how to make this. It's non-flexible glue is what the stone glue is. And I made a whole bunch of embellishments and things with the stone glue. And I'm going to be using some of those in my project today, I think, before it's all said and done. But I wanted to show you how we make the Flexiglue, talk to you a little bit about that. Now, the Flexiglue makes a product that's flexible. See, this stuff is hard and it doesn't bend. But if you do it with the Flexiglue, it will bend around objects. And I don't think it dries out as much, with as much shrinkage as what the stone glue does. We're going to find out. All right? Now, I'll talk a little bit about how you make this, but if you want the whole recipe and everything, you have to go over to her channel and get the entire recipe. She's got it all wrote out over there. But with this, you use 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Now, I think about everybody has that in their kitchen. 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of sugar, white granulated sugar, just regular sugar. And you use 3 tablespoons of kosher or sea salt. Now, a lot of us have that in our kitchen, but it's easily obtainable at the grocery store. Then she used 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of vital wheat gluten. Now, that might be a little more difficult for you to get. I know they don't have it at my local Walmart grocery store. Check there along with the flours and stuff. You might be able to find it in the baking section. If not, you can always order some of that online. Then she mixes all those elements together. She adds 2 cups of distilled water. You can use tap water if you don't have any distilled. And you mix that all together until it's thoroughly mixed, and then you strain it through a fine mesh strainer into a heavy bottom pot on your stove, and you put it over medium heat. And you set your timer for 12 minutes, and you go to stirring it with a wooden spoon. And you stir it there for the full 12 minutes. It'll become hot, steamy, and hard to stir. Then you're going to pour it into a jar. You put a paper towel over top of the jar there and let the steam absorb into the paper towel. Once it's cool, you cover it, put your lid on it, and put it in the refrigerator. And let's see here. She says that it'll keep 3 days to a week, or you can keep it in the freezer for up to 3 months. And she says not to eat the glue. And once you mix it with your sawdust, you use 1 part glue, 2 parts sawdust. So it would be like a half a cup of the glue to 1 cup of the sawdust. And then you can add your colorant. Well, she always wants you to use anything that's natural. You can use herbs, you can use berries, you can use chocolate, you can use mica. Mica is made from ground stone, which is natural. A lot of different natural things that you can use in it. But you can also use food coloring, or you can just paint it when it's done if you would prefer to do that. It takes away from it being a natural product, but it can be done that way. And you roll it out into thin layers, which creates a veneer. And you can also use it in a mold to create onlays or banding if you want to stack it for a banded product. So there it is in a nutshell on how to do this. Now, I've got my glue made and cooled, and I'm going to mix some up here. And I've got my measuring cup And I got a bucket of this glue. I'll get it up here so that you can see it. That's what it looks like made up. And I'm going to take a half a cup of that. Let's scoop that up here into this. As a matter of fact, I need to get my gloves on. I wear rubber gloves when I do this project. I'll let that sit there just a second till I get these gloves on, or I'll have this all over me. I should have had that done, shouldn't I? You can get rubber gloves most any place they sell paint. Of course, I got mine up to the Walmart. You can get a lot of stuff up to the Walmart. Let's scoop this thing good and full, and then I'm just going to kind of pat it down there in that cup and rake it across the top. Get it off of there. Get it up here where you can see it. Smooth it out across the top. Wipe off all the excess back into the bucket. I love these ice cream buckets. Buy your ice cream in these buckets and then save the buckets for all your craft stuff. I also freeze a lot of stuff in these buckets too. You know, if you buy in bulk, you can put your excess foods and things in these buckets and mark them in the freezer with the date and what it is in them. You save you some money that way. Okay, so I got the glue in the cup, and now I'm going to rake it out of the cup into the bucket. That's a half a cup of the glue. Get it off my finger and into the bucket. It'll be going. Get it all out of there. Okay, now we got that in the bucket. I'm going to get a paper towel here to wipe my cup up with so that I'm not smearing glue all over everything. Now, I do not foresee using this for a while, and I don't want it to go bad in the refrigerator, this glue. So I'll slap an ice cream bucket lid on it and put it in the freezer. I'll mark the date and everything on it, and that it's Flexiglue so that don't get confused with nothing else. Don't you hate that you put stuff in the refrigerator or the freezer and you can't remember what it was or when you got it? Let's see, I'm going to use some fine sawdust here. Sawdust comes in different grains. You know, somebody that does a lot of sawing. And depending upon what kind of a product you're making, depends on what you want to use as far as your grain in the sawdust. I'm using fine because we're going to be covering a Pringles can to make a little pencil holder or paintbrush holder out of. This would also make good embellishments. Okay, now I've measured out a cup of it, and I'm going to dump that cup of sawdust into the bucket. I'm going to set my cups aside over here, and I'm going to zip my Ziploc of sawdust back up. When I get ready to use it again, use the glue again and take it out of the freezer, I'll just have to let it sit out of the freezer, maybe put it in the refrigerator there overnight or something, give it a chance to thaw out good, and it'll be ready to use again. There we go, got that all zipped back up, and I'll set that out of the way. Now, we got our glue and we got our sawdust in the bucket. And I got a little glue up here on the edge where I wiped it off my glove. Get that down in there. Now, just take your hands down in it. You can use a spatula or something to stir it around if you want to, but there ain't nothing like using your hands. You're eventually going to have to get your hands in it anyway to mix it up good. Now this is the recipe that she recommends for this. You squish that glue all around till you soak up all that sawdust good. If it is still too sticky, once you get it all mixed in, you can use a little more sawdust. If it is too dry and crumbly, then you're going to need a little bit more glue. You know, this is nothing etched in stone that this is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm going to turn it here a little bit. You're probably not going to be able to see me mixing it in here for a second till I get some of this sawdust squished into that glue real good. Till I turn it out here on my mat. And then I'll go to working it to smooth it. But Shelly and I had a little discussion about the glues and about the sawdust in some email messages there back and forth, messenger messages and stuff. And what we found, or what she found, I'll give her most of the credit on this, is that the Flexiglue works better than the stone glue for most applications. The stone glue works as a good binding glue when you're gluing things together. It works like a wood glue. The Flexiglue seems not to dry out as badly as the stone glue. The stone glue, since it dries out as much as it does, it shrinks a lot. So when you do a project and you have it looking really nice, you know, and it's still wet, it hasn't dried, and then you go back and look at it when it's dry and it's all cracked with craters in it and all that, it kind of breaks your heart. You put so much work into it, and then your work is all cracked and craggy looking. And the Flexiglue does not do that, according to Shelly. Now, this is my first attempt at making the Flexiglue, so we're going to see what I think of it. But there, I've got it going pretty good. We'll tip it out of the bucket there. Now, you see I got a lot of sawdust here left over. That's all sawdust. So we're going to be working that into this glue. Just keep going until we get it all worked in. You work it and knead it. And you want it smooth. See, and there's nothing smooth about this because it hasn't even soaked up the sawdust yet. So, got to keep turning and working that all in. It's going to look like a big old clump of Play-Doh. This is pine sawdust from pine wood. Anybody that does a lot of woodworking, cutting wood and all that, will have a lot of sawdust around. I'm not one of those people. I don't have a lot of saws and stuff to work with and do a lot of woodworking, but I know a lot of people that do, and it's not hard to procure a little bit of sawdust. I'm feeling a few little chunks in there that I'm pulling out as I go. We don't want any chunks of wood in it. See, it's soaking it up pretty good. Just keep working it around in there. Should not be a bunch of crumbling when we get it all worked in. I don't want to add anything to it until I see exactly what our end product is going to be. And this isn't a real quick project. It takes however much time it's going to take. Weather conditions and stuff will also affect your wood product. I mean, you know, if you go out to get a piece of wood and cut it and the wood's wet, that wood's going to give you a different effect. It's going to saw differently. It's going to give you a lot more different issues than if you went out and it was thoroughly dried, been sitting in the sun. You have a whole bunch of different issues there. So right here today, I'm doing this and it's been raining all day. So hot and humid, rainy and wet. And I'm doing this project. See, now it's all starting to come together. And it's looking more and more like Play-Doh all the time. Pieces come off of it and I'm just tapping them back up off the mat. I love these silicone mats, man, I tell you. They are the berries. Painting and working this kind of stuff. And you can't be a crafter without having one of these kind of mats around. Get some of the notifications there off the desktop so that I can see what I'm doing on the screen. Watching myself work. Okay, now we haven't added the color to this yet. And I'm just going to kind of divide it in half. I'm going to put one piece of it aside, take the other piece, because that's looking pretty good right there, and I want to get some white mica. And people ask, well, how much does it take? It takes however much it takes. That's how much. So I'm just going to take a couple good hefty pinches of it out there. And zip the bag back up so that I don't spill it. Why is it these Ziploc bags are always easier to unzip than they are to zip? Anybody else have that issue? There we go. Snapped up. And we just go to rolling it in there and squishing it around. And it's going to soak up that white mica. Now, we're liable to have white mica left over when it's all done. It may turn it all white and still have a pile of mica on the table, and that's all right. I don't care. I'd rather have some left than not enough. So you break it apart, it's still yeller in the middle, so you got to just keep working it. Working that white mica in. Now, one thing that I did notice on the stone glue when I was working the mica in is that the mica will have a tendency to dry it out a little bit. So if you need to add more glue to it, you may have to add more glue because you don't want it crumbly. But you could have also added herbs. You could add chocolate if you wanted it to be brown. You could add spices. You could use food coloring. Food coloring's not natural, but you know, it'll color it. Or just left it alone and then painted it when you got the whole thing done, or whatever you want to do. It's your project. You make it your own. See, when I break this apart, I don't want to see yellow. See, it's yeller in the inside. Looks like sawdust. We want it all coated good with the mica. Just keep working it around in that mica pile. Break it all up. Roll it all back in again. You want it to be good and smooth. And one color. Still a little bit yeller on the inside. So we just keep working it. See, now look at there. It's turning whiter. It's still got some yellow to it, but it's whiter than it was. It is a little crumbly. Could use just a little more glue in that to hold it all together. So while I got the glue out here, let's get just a little bit more and add that to it. Keep it from being too crumbly. See, I'm just a dollop. That's probably about a teaspoon, or I'm sorry, a tablespoon. About a tablespoon. Add it into it, and we'll just go to squishing that into it. Keep it from crumbling up. If you go over to Know What Mom Knows, over on her channel, she'll have the recipes for the stone glue and the Flexiglue over there on her channel. And she's got some videos on how she makes it. Show you how to do this. Blot up what little slivers there landed on the mat. See, now if it's too sticky, then you might want to add just a little bit more sawdust to it. But I think that's about right there. That's about Play-Doh consistency. Right there. Alright, now, show you how I'm going to do this project. What Shelly would do is she'd roll this out into thin layers, and then she'd let it dry, and then she'd flex it around the can. I'm not going to do mine that way. See, everybody does things different. I'm going to do mine right on the dadburn can. It's got the glue in it, so it should stick to the can real well. She does not recommend using the Flexiglue to glue it to stuff. She recommends using the stone glue. Now, you can also use just regular wood glue. I don't have any stone glue mixed up right now, and for just this one little project, I wasn't going to mix up a batch of it. And, you know, go through all the work and everything and making another batch of glue for this one little project. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to mash it down to the can and cover the entire can in the Flexiglue SADUSDO. Let's see how this does here. I'm going to embellish it once I get it all covered. But this is just a regular Pringles can. I cleaned it out real good once the chips was out of it. See, I'm just putting chunks of it on there, and then I'm flattening them out with my fingers. until this whole can is covered real well with the product. Since it's wet and there's glue in it, it's going to stick right to the can. See little places that need a little bit more, you just add another little piece to it and mash it in. This is easy to do while the glue is wet and product is wet. And you just put it on to whatever consistency you want to put it on there in, you know. I'm putting mine on there, oh, I guess, you know, fairly thin. I'm just kind of mashing it out till it just conforms down to the can. But I can always use pencil and paintbrush holders and stuff on my desk. I was just thinking here the other day that
I pulled up some videos for you.
my laptop's talking to me in the other room. My pencil holders was getting a little full with paintbrushes and stuff in them. It's hard to find things. Thought I could sure use another one of them. So when I got to thinking about what can I make with their Flexiglue for my project here, I thought, oh yeah, I got a Pringles can that I haven't used. Make a nice little pencil holder. I always like to decorate them when they're going to be sitting on my desk. They look a little nicer if you decorate them. And there's all kinds of ways to decorate these Pringles cans. I did a big project back before Christmas where I decorated them for making present boxes out of. You could slide presents into them, put the little plastic cap back on them, and decorate the cap. I did it with all kinds of different papers and all that, but yeah, you can decorate them up any way you want to and use them for all kinds of things. Just keep putting a piece on at a time and working it down flat. We're about 2/3 of the way around the can now. This is a nice way to use your sawdust up, you know, make something pretty out of it. Some artistic ability here to your crafting. Because this is going to be all you know, whatever you come up with as far as your design. You can do it in, you know, whatever colors you want to use. You can put whatever embellishments on it you want to put on. See, I'm going to use SADUSDO elements here to embellish with, but you could use all kinds of stuff. You could use beads. There's all kinds of pretty beads and things that you could use. You could use strips of ribbon, make a design around it. You could paint a design on it. Whatever floats your boat. The sky's the limit. I'm just trying to get the layer on there to begin with. I'll smooth it down some once I get it all adhered to the can. The first step is just to get the SADUSDO attached to the receptacle. This is a nice project to do with the kids too. I mean, Christmas is going to be coming. They're going to need teacher gifts for Christmas time. And what better to do than give the teacher something that the child made themselves, you know? You could make one of these and get a couple packs of pretty pencils and stuff to stick in there. They have pencils in all different kinds of designs and stuff now. Tie a ribbon on it. Even up the edge up there at the top of it a little bit more once I get this all pressed in. But since this is the Flexiglue recipe, it's going to flex right around that can. Not give any grief whatsoever. Now, if you are going to dry this in the sun, or if you're going to dry it in the oven at a very low temperature, like 250, I probably wouldn't put it in there over 15-20 minutes. It will harden it up hard. It will be like the stone glue. I'm just going to allow mine to dry naturally. I'm not in any hurry to get it dry, and I don't see any real need to have it that hard. Now I'm working around the bottom edge of the can because I want the little metal edge to be totally covered. So we'll just take little pieces of the glue and press it on. Press it right over top of that metal rim. See how I have that metal there? So we'll just take little pieces and press it. So it's right down there on the edge. Take my finger and smooth it. Make sure nothing's hanging over the edge of the can. That looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to take this and just roll it on the mat. Help smooth it out a little bit. Smoothing out the sides just a touch. I don't care if it looks a little craggy for my project. If you wanted yours perfectly smooth, you might take a little water on your fingers and just really smooth it out. Now I've got this upper lip to deal with. Still have a little bit of my SADUSDO left up over here, so I'm just going to do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom, just pressing it right up there on that lip. You could take it over the lip and fold it to the inside of the can if you wanted to. I mean, it's yours. It's your project. You do it the way you want to do it. This is going to be all about you. Okay. Now, I've got a whole bunch of embellishments. These are the ones that I made. I've got some that Shelly made over here in another sack that she sent me to show me about this project. And let me get her little sack opened up here and get some of her embellishments out. There we go. And you can do this up any way you want to. She sent me, say, like a little leaf like that. We take it and you could glue it on if you wanted to. Now this Flexiglue is still wet, so I'm just going to press it on. Press it right down in that glue, just like that. And then here's a little flower that she made. It's a little white flower. And I'm going to do the same thing with that. As a matter of fact, here's what I'm going to do. I got a little of this SADUSDO left over. I'm going to put a chunk of that on the back of it. And press it in there to the flower. And then I'm going to take the flower and I'm going to stick it right into the SADUSDO on the can to glue it in. You could use the stone glue. You could use wood glue. See, now that's not wanting to sit in there real good, is it? So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Well, now it's sticking. See if it keeps threatening me. I'll use some wood glue. I've got a bottle of wood glue sitting at the ready over here. If I had stone glue made up, I'd use some of that, but I'm just going to push that in real good around the bottom of it and just set it in and see if I can get this so you can see it. There's the little flower with the leaf. Let's see what all other things she's got in here. Here's another little flower. That's pretty. That's got beads in that one. We'll just push that down in that good. And see, there's some little balls and some little chips and pieces. These white flowers aren't going to show up on it real good. See, what have I got over here in my little pile of things? There's a pretty little owl. We'll put a little owl on one side of it. And that's going to need a little help on the back. So I'm going to take another chunk of the glue, SADUSDO glue, to put on there to help embed that owl. And press it in real good. Just kind of wiggle it down on there. And if it don't want to stay, I'll get the wood glue out. Yep, that's not going to stay on there. Okay. Well, here's how we're going to fix that. Now, you could use the stone glue if you had some made up. Like I say, I don't have any made up, so. I'm just going to take a little wood glue. This is regular old Elmer's wood glue. I'm going to put a smear of that on there. That's a technical term, don't you know? A smear. There we go. Stuck my little owl on there. And, oh, let's see. What else do I have? I've got some little purties. See, like I've got these little things look like little gemstones. I'll stick a few of them on there. Little embellishment things. There's a star and a heart and a diamond and a little square and a little teardrop stuck on there. And there's the little pencil can. Got a flower and a leaf and another little flower and my owl. And this one's, I think, going to give me issues. So, while we got the glue up here, show you how we fix that. We'll use the wood glue and stick it right in there. Just like that. That wood glue will dry her in. Don't think she won't. Now, I'll go around the rim here one more time and press real good. Make sure I got that rim all nice and covered and even. And there is our pretty little pencil cup all done up. I'll mesh that just a little bit more. Anything you see that you want to improve upon, now would be the time before it sits up good and dry. But there's our pencil cup done up. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All the URLs and all that are in the description of the video for your convenience there. But this was a fun little project. It'd be great to make with kids. I think they'd enjoy it immensely. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask them. But now, I know what Mom knows. Do you? Brenda's crafty. Be like Brenda.